Morning students, so welcome back to the week number 10. So in this week we will be talking about the MVVM and the Firebase, how we can read the data from the cloud and get everything done. So the first thing is the model view model that we discussed in the last week, that we have a separation of concerns. We have the views which are representing the user interfaces. Then we have the view model, which is serving all the data queries from the user interfaces, and the model is serving the view model so that it can serve the data to the views. So that is, we are trying to separate each and every level of your application and trying to follow a successful design pattern that can help us to manage our application and the code. So this is the view that we can have here. So we have the user interfaces, and then we have the view binding, and then user interfaces make a request to the view model make a request to the data model, and data model accessing whether it is coming from the SQLite, the room database, or the coming from the file, or the coming from the JSON. That is more like what you can say, that coming from or some sort of web services, and or it is coming from a cloud. So based on whatever that source of data is, it is going to give back the data to the view model, and then view model is going to give it back to the user interface. So user interfaces are only concerned with the interaction, how to handle the things with the user interaction, the user experience. They don't need to worry about the data manipulation, data processing, and so on. And on the other hand, the view model is only making an abstraction between the UI and the data itself. So this is more like journal, what you can say, that framework or the architecture of an application. We have the activities or the fragments, user interfaces in between. We have the view model, then we have the repository or the data model, you can say that. And then we can, that particular data model or the repository is going to get the data from different sources. So far we have talked about a database can be located in many places, maybe web services or the cloud, or it can be a local database, it can be a remote database. Okay, so we can also access something like that from our remote services or HTTP. So depending on where your data is, we need to provide that particular access to that data. So a remote DB is hosted on a web server. One option, do it yourself. You build your own server, get the static IP address for that particular specific server from the service provider, or you can use any kind of the cloud services. Like we have the Amazon cloud services, we also have the Azure, that is Microsoft services, we also have the Firebase, which is the Google web services, Google cloud services. So again, it totally depend on that what are your needs. Normally, being the small enterprises, we always try to go and get those particular specific services from the other provider as compared to build your own servers. The reason is that that's become those services come with a lot of different type of functionalities. They also provide you some security measures. They also, all those kind of thing. If you are developing your own server, and then it means that you have to implement all those kind of user permissions, authentications, and the data security, and so on. So you will be responsible for all those things. So if you are going with that particular specific solution. In the Firebase, we have different type of the real-time database. It supports JSON data. All connected users receive live updates. So this is again a real-time database, and this was used in the recently, but now they are more providing the Firestore. Firestore is also a kind of a real-time database, but it gives you a flexibility, scalable, no SQL, and it's a cloud database. Okay, no SQL, it means that it is not using any kind of an SQL. It is providing you a collection and the document kind of a view. It's more like a JSON based. Authentication, we can also get the authentication. We can ask the Firebase to authenticate our user based on the email address they have provided, and they will also help you to host a Firebase. On the Firebase you can also host your own web services on all applications that can help you to utilize the cloud. But definitely if you are using for a testing purposes that we are going to do in this course, that is quite fine. You don't need to worry about the payment because that's more or less covered in the free part. But if you are using something which is more extensive, I mean there are a lot of data queries has been you have like an application which has millions of users, and it is having a high traffic on that particular specific application, then definitely in that case the Firebase or the Google web services will be going to charge you for that particular specific thing. But for our purposes, I mean 20-30 students trying to all you are testing your application, having some few read and write operations on your database, so that's quite fine. It is quite free. Fab is friendly and simple to use, simple control, different useful services. I mean, it provides you different services. Of course, I can't go all the services, but we have authentication, we have a FIrestore, we have a real-time database. We also have the storage. Storage means that you can save these files, Word files or the image files or the video files and so on, so you can store over there. It also provides you hosting. You can host your web applications or the web services or the websites on that, and they also provide you some other analytics features as well. So different services which are useful for different businesses, you can use it. But if you're going for a professional thing, then definitely it will cost you a little bit. So you need to make sure that you know that particular specific cost effect. So you have done your cost analysis, that which specific services is more cheaper to you. So you need to make sure that you have done that particular specific analysis. So how to set up your application? I mean, it's simple. So if you go into that particular specific firebase.google.com, and I'm sure that all of you will have a Google account. Okay, so once you have go to that particular Firebase, you say go to console. When you say go to console, it will ask you the if you have not logged in yet, then of course it will ask you to log in. You need to provide your Gmail ID, and then you need to log in. And once you're logged in, it will come up that particular specific scenario. Here you can add some projects. I mean, there is no limitation. You can add as many projects as you want. So you click on that particular specific what you can say that project, and once you click on that particular specific add project, it will ask you a few things. First of all, it will ask you the project name. That's only for this Firebase. You don't need to worry about that. That project name should be same as your project name inside the Android Studio. No, this is whatever name that you want to give it here, you can provide it here. And then you click on the continue. When you click on the continue, it will ask you, do you want to enable the Google Analytics for this project? You can say no, you can say yes, doesn't matter at this time, because we are just making some application trying to learn how we can connect with the database. So but if you are having a lot of traffic in your web service in that particular specific project, then you can enable it, and then it will give you a insight into your application that is running on the Firebase. I mean, how many users are accessing that particular specific application on the daily basis, how many from where that particular specific users are coming, and so on. And then again you click on the continue. When you click on the continue, it will ask you that you want to use which one. So I mean, of course we are going to use the default account for the Firebase, that is more the normal one. And then you say hit the create project. When you hit the create project, it will I mean, it will do something, it will take some time, and then it will come up with this particular specific dialog box that your new project is ready. Do you want to continue? Yes, we want to continue. And it will take you to the home page of your project. So it is the name of the project that we have selected or we have created here, and then it will show you the services. Now what we need to do, we need to connect our Android application, so Android application with this particular specific project. If you have not created your project yet, with which you are going to connect your Firebase account or this particular specific project, then you must have created that particular specific project. You only need to have create that project, start that particular specific project. And because why we need it, because we need that particular package name that we assign to that particular specific project at the creation time. So once you have that project, you click on that particular specific icon that is showing the Android. You can also connect with the iOS, you also connect with some other thing, you can also connect with the Unity framework and so on, but right now we are more concerned with that particular specific Android. So you click on the Android. So whenever we have done that, again it is asking me now, that is the reason that I ask you that you must have created your project before you can connect your project with the Firebase. The reason is that you need to provide that package name here. So if you have not created your project, you will not be able to get that have that package name. So you need to create that project. So once you have you need to provide that project name here, and package name here, and then this is a nickname. I mean, again, you want to give it, not doesn't matter. This is another thing, this is an additional what you can say, that additional feature for the security purposes, but right now we are not using it, but yes, we can use it. If you look, I will put a link for my previous last week or last year lectures in which we are using the real-time database. Here we will be talking about the FIrestore, but in that last year I talk with the I connect with the real-time database. So in that I have explained that how you can get your security certificate and put it here. So you can see that particular specific, but right now we are saying that package name, nickname if you want to give it, and then click register. When you click on the register, it will come up with that particular specific thing. The second part, that is the downloading. It has actually configured that particular specific JSON file. You click on the download, it will download into you, and make sure that it is a google-services.json, because sometimes if you have downloaded it 2 or 3 times, it automatically append 1 2 at the end. So you make sure that when you are copying that particular specific file, it should be google-services.json, not services1, not services2. Okay, so you need to make sure that the name of that particular specific file is exactly the same, and then you need to copy that particular specific application. First of all, normally when we are in the Android, if I can just switch between that particular specific project, so here you can see that normally we are in the Android view of your project. So what we need to do, we need to convert into the Android project view, open that one, open that particular specific application. If you have copied your what you can say, that if you have copied your Google services file, then you can right click on here and then you can say paste. So that particular specific file will go into the right place. So make sure that you are doing that particular specific thing. So once you have downloaded that particular specific Google services.json file, make sure that you are putting in the app folder in the application view of your project. And once you have done that, you can click next. So once you have clicked next, then it will ask you that you need to add some specific dependencies and the project inside your project. The first thing is you need to provide as the project. So inside the build.gradle and the project, you need to provide that particular add that specific line, class path.google services 4.3.3. so it will be, I mean, build.gradle is already there. So what you need to do, you need to add this specific line and it is over there. This is repositories. Google is nowadays, it is default there, but if it is not there, then you of course you need to provide it over there as well. But normally this is the only thing that you need to change in the current project scenarios. Okay, so once you have added that line inside the build.gradle, again project, okay, then you need to open that particular specific app gradle file and open that one, and then you need to apply a plugin. Again, com.google.com jsm.google services. So you have to apply that particular, right at the end of that particular specific line, you out of the dependencies, you write that particular specific line or add that line over there. And again, do not synchronize your project yet. So we are still need to add a few things here. So now what we need to do, because we are using, so we also have like, these are more kind of if you go into that particular specific Firebase google.com/doc/android/setup, so you will come up with that particular specific things. And then what you need to implement, you need to import that particular specific library or the packages inside your project. Because we are using the cloud store, if we want to use the authentication, we also need to do the authentication. If we are, I mean, we have different type of services here, but right now we are more concerned in the cloud store. So what we need to do, we need to open that particular specific Gradle file and add that particular specific line, com.google.firebase.firestore and 21.6.0, that is the version number. And if we go back to this one, so you can see that it is exactly the same line. Okay, so we need to add that particular specific line inside our dependencies, and now we can synchronize. Once you synchronize, it will download all those things. It is always better that if you, after all the synchronization, you can say you want to rebuild the project, and then that will try to fix all those things for your project. So far what you can say, that we have connected our application with our Firebase project that we have just created. And now again, you say console.firebase.open, open your project and create a database. So once you are here, you have already connected your application with your Android Firebase project. So now you click on the FIrestore or Cloud FIrestore. So when you click on that, it will open up, and then you say that you need to create. By default, there is nothing over there, it is not created yet. So you need to create that particular specific database. So once you create it, it will ask you some questions. So you want to start in the production mode, or you want to start in the test mode. So it should be in the test mode, or maybe you can say in the production mode, but in any case, so don't worry about that. So you can say that you can start in the test mode and click on the next, and then you can go into that particular specific. You need to select the location of your FIrestore database, and that is depend, because different Google services are all around the world. So of course we will try to connect with the server which is more closer to our user base. I mean, because we are in the New Zealand, so we say Australia Southeast one. So I selected that particular, and the important thing is, once you have selected that location at that create time, you can't change it later on. So if you need to make sure that you are selecting the right location, once you have selected location, then you say enabled. Once you say enabled, it will automatically create, and then you will see that it is created. So now we have the what you need to do here. One thing, that if I just quickly show you, where is my FIrestore? It is here. I'm just bringing it here. Okay, so what you need to do, you go into the rules, and you will see a few things. There will be like a timestamp. Okay, if I go back into my this one, so it will be that particular specific rule is like, if the request dot time is less than this. So if it is like that, then you need to make sure that you are we are putting that particular specific thing here as if true. Okay, so you can say that if true, and you can remove that particular specific next line, that after the timetable, because if it is the case, then it will be a problematic, and then you will not be able to read and write. But make sure, look at that, this is like that we are keeping that particular specific database open. It means anybody can read and write, provided that it exactly know that where that particular specific database is, and it is allowed to connect with that particular specific project. Okay, so that is not an ideal situation, but for the testing purposes, we are going to use that one. So once we have that one, so in the FIrestore, that particular specific thing is more like a collection. You can say that it's a folder in which we have different files. Okay, so for example, I have the enrollment, and inside the enrollment we have two different files, and all those, one file contain the information about the one enrollment, second file contain the information about the second enrollment. And similarly, if I talk about the courses, in the courses we have multiple files or multiple documents, and each document contain the information. So it is more like a hierarchical architecture of that particular specific database. So we are in the courses, and then we are in the D303, that is the course code, and then we have all the information: course ID, course name, course level, course description, and the course code. And similarly, we can also talk about the student. So we have a students, and the student, we have only one student. And then, so it is like we have the collections, and inside the collection we have the documents. So we make sure that these collection names and the documents are uniquely identified. Okay, if we are trying to write another student with the same ID1, then it will be overridden here. So with that, we don't want. So we need to make sure that we are providing the appropriate name for the document and appropriate name for the collection. Okay, so this is the how the Firestore is managing collections. Inside the collections we have different documents. In the Fire documents, we can also have as many collections as we want. So we have a courses, so one collection is representing one table, you can say, in a simplest form you can understand, and one document is representing one record, and all the fields belongs to that particular specific record come into that particular specific document. Okay, so this is our app scenario. So we have some activities which are communicating with the view model for the data. That view model is communicating with the data model. Data model is communicating with the data access objects to get the information from the local database. And if that particular data model need to get the information from the remote or the cloud database, then it need to ask to a different class to get those information. So let's start. So again, we need to first of all to generate those different type of activities. What are different type of user interfaces are there? Here we have that particular username and password. So that's a login screen. If you have not created your login, you can always sign up. And then we have a sign up screen. We also have the main screen for our student enrollment, where it can enroll, or it can also look at change the information of that particular personal information. We also have an add enrollment screen. We also have the personal information changing and editing. So if you click on the edit, it will allow you to edit those things, and then you click on the update, and then those information, whatever you have changed over there, it will be updated in the system. Oh, okay. So the first thing is, first we need to create a data model. So for the create a data model, so if we have a student.java class, and then you know that why I put that particular serializable. The reason is that if I want between one activity to the other activity, I want to exchange that particular specific student object, then it should be a serializable. Okay, so this is the model. So we have a student ID, name, username, password, first name, last name, address, that's an embedded field, gender, date of birth, and the user mobile. So we need to create a data model package, and then we create a student class, make it an entity, add the data above this particular specific line, write the add the data of entity. And once we have done that, we also have the course entity, we also have the enrollment entity. So we have all these three entities inside our project. We build that thing, and then what we need to do, we need to add that dependency in the build.gradle file. That is a project file. Okay, if I just show you here, it should be, we are talking, where is my cursor? Here it is. So I'm talking about that particular, let me go back into the Android. Yeah, we are talking about that particular application. Okay, so if we look at there, you can have that particular room architecture, and then you need to add that particular specific lines here. Okay, so once you have added those things, then you will be able to make those all those annotations that we are using for the room. We also need to add the DAO, data access objects, and we can also use the live data. Live data is more like, instead of having that particular list of the student, I say live list of the students. What does it mean? That we go into the sign up and then we add a student. Okay, so what happens? So when you add a student, if it is a list, it will not going to update itself automatically. But if it is a live data list of students, and then you are reading it from the database, then whenever there is a new student added inside the database, it will automatically report back to that particular specific live data that there is new data has been inserted, or even the data has been changed. So it will update that particular specific information in that particular specific list, and then the list is updated automatically. And I will show you that how the things are being done. Okay, so this is our student DAO, where we are only concerned with the student, all the operations that we want to perform on the student table. So I am just separating the things. uh, I can write in one big DAO, data access object, and put everything over there, or we can separate so that we know that exactly if we want to handle the student table, then where we need to go and change the things. Similarly, I have a course DAO, data access object, and similarly we also have the enrollment DAO. After that, we need to create a database. So again, if you look at that, I have this student.class, course.class, and then enrollment.class, and then we have a version export schema we are creating. Here now I have three abstract methods which are one returning me the student data access object, the other one is returning me the course data access object, and the third one is returning me the enrollment data access object. And then the this part is exactly the same. We are going to create a database. If it is null, then we are going to create a database using the context of the application with what is the database class and what is the name of the database, and then we are also allowing the thread queries. If you don't allow that, you can't make these kind of an operations on the main thread, okay, or the main activity. And then again we have a dot build, and then we are going to return it. Fine. So that is our database. So we also have like data model class. So we created that particular specific class. In that particular specific data model class, I have three DAOs, one for the student, one for the course, one for the enrollment. And then here I am initializing that particular specific. This is the constructor. So I am creating the database, and from that particular database I am getting the student DAO, course DAO, enrollment DAO, and I am also initializing the course data. And remember that we need to have that particular courses which are there. So initially 7 courses we added, so initializing that particular course table with some information from the data. Then we can also say that get next ID. It will return me the next valid ID for us to insert a student. And then we also have the insert student using the student DAO. I'm going to insert that student inside my database. And similarly we also have get live student list. So we are getting the live student list, okay, and it will return maybe a live data. And that is exactly, if we look into our I have this one here, get student list, it will only return me a list. But if I say get live data list, data all student, so it will give me a live list of the live data list of the students. So I am trying to use that particular specific method which I have defined inside the student DAO and get that particular specific live list of the students. And similarly I get the list. If I need only a list which does not automatically update itself, then I can do that. And similarly I have written down different type of methods here. So now the room database handler, I have these 3 methods over there in that particular specific data model class. I have that and created that particular specific constructor and all those methods to access the different type of data from my database. So this specific part, DAOs and the local database and the data model is done. In the data model, we have this is a more kind of a remote DB handler. So I'm talking about this particular specific part here. Okay, so I'm going to add a data model again, because sometimes we need to go and change the information from our room database. So that's why I have a reference of that particular specific data model which created this particular specific data remote DB handler. And in that particular specific, I have also defined some constants. Remember that we have collections and each collection have a unique name. So I am selecting the name of those collections here. I'm creating those collections, students, courses, enrollments, and I'm trying to make them all capital. So these are the constant strings that I have defined in this class. Again, constructor, so that is going to accept that data model. Okay, demo data model, so that is we are assigning it. So we are trying to get the reference of the data model. So whenever we need to perform some specific operation on the room database, then we can using that particular reference and calling appropriate method inside it. Now we talk about the write a record. So the first thing is, remember that we want to initialize the course information. So here is the course. The first line is representing that we are saying that we want to create a FIrestore cloud DB, that's the name of the variable, and then we say FIrestore Firebase FIrestore dot get instance, because we have connected, we have provided that particular JSON file which is connecting our project with the Firebase project. So it will automatically try to get that particular instance of the FIrestore database. So once we have that particular specific instance, because we are getting the list of courses, so we are saying that for a course, for every course in that particular list of courses, we want to add inside our cloud database. So for say cloud db dot collection, and remember that I have defined that particular specific collection name here, course data collection. So that is courses. So I am using that particular constant value here to tell that I want to open or that collection. So if that collection does not exist, it will automatically be created. And inside that collection, I want to add a document, document course dot get course ID. So I'm whatever that course code is, I'm based on that course code, I'm creating a document name. If that document is not there, it will be created. If it is already there, it will be overridden by that particular specific statement. So first thing, we are getting the cloud database, we are saying collection, so we are asking a specific collection to be open or created. If it is not there, it will be created. If it is there, it will be opened. And then we say document, and again we are providing the course code as a name of the document. So if that document is already there, it will be overridden. If it is not there, it will be created. And then we say dot set, I want to set contents of that particular specific database. So that document, I mean the fields that, and those fields are actually the key value pair, the name of the field and the value of the field. So these are the key value pairs that we need to add over there. And then you are saying that once we are dot set, this is a remote process, so it will go into the remote database and try to add that particular specific thing. If it is a successful, it will come back into this particular specific method, that operation, that adding that particular, creating that particular specific document and adding those values inside it. If it is successful, it will come into that particular specific function or the method. And if it is a failed one, I mean due to some reasons, due to some maybe some authentication process is not done, so it will come into that one. So I'm just trying to log those information whether it is successful or the unsuccessful. So now the main thing is get course map, and we are providing the course object. What does this map mean? This is actually what you can say that we have here. So this is a get course map method which is inside the remote database handler. So it will return me a map, a key value pair. Okay, it's a map, it's what you can say that it's a list of the key value pairs, you can say that. Okay, so I'm providing the course and it will create a new map, and then it will provide all those course ID, course code, course name, course description, course level, and providing all those values and making the key value pairs here in that map, and then return me that map. So these, again, these constant names, actually I have created a new class that is called constant names, and to give that particular specific different strings here. So these strings are actually representing the name of the columns. Okay, the column name for the course ID is course ID, column name for the course code is the course code. So I'm providing the exactly the same column names here, and then I am adding those values as a key value pairs, and that map is given back to the set value. So it will try and go back, and if I can just show you here, it will go into my, where is my, yep. So it will go into that particular specific courses, and then if you show that looking at the code, it add those key value pairs. These are the keys and these are the values. These keys are representing the name of the field, and these are the value itself. I can change, like this one is a number, this one is a string, this is also a number, this is also a string, this one, and so on. So these are the key value pairs that we are adding inside our database, and that is coming from these particular specific. So every time we have a object, we need to convert into a map, and then we can provide that particular specific map to the set function of that particular specific document to add that particular specific values inside that document. The same thing we are going to do for the inside our data model. I also need to change, remember we have initialized course data, so in which we are creating all those course objects and adding them into a list, and at the end we are adding those into our course using the course DAO. We are inserting the courses inside our room database, SQLite database. So here I'm checking. So if once it has returned me back, it returned me back what you can see that it is going to return me back an array of the IDs. Okay, so I'm just checking that if that particular specific array of IDs, if that length is not equal to 0, it means it has added those specific courses inside our room database. Then I am saying that from the remote DB handler, call that particular specific insert course method. Okay, and we are going to call this particular specific method here and inside our data model, and it will be added inside our remote, and that is what you can see here in this particular specific Firebase. Okay, so similarly we need to add what you can say that insert a student. Again, we are getting the Firebase FIrestore instance, Cloud DB. We are getting the collection, that collection name we have students that we have defined. I'm opening that collection. If it is not, it was created, and then I am giving the name of that particular specific document that I want to create. For each student, I am going to create a document based on the student ID itself, and then I am getting get student map. Again, I'm providing the I have a method which take the student object and convert it into this key value pair and pair map, and then return it back, and that map is given to the set method, and that will be added inside that particular specific document inside this collection. Okay, and if it is a success, it will come down here. If it is a failure, it is coming down here. So that is more like debugging cases. In case that something bad happened, then how we can identify where that particular specific problem is. So insert a student. Similarly, we can we need to change the things inside our data model. So the method in which we are inserting the student inside our room database. So we say long inserted is equal to rooms student DAO, student data access object dot insert student. If it is returning me ID of that particular specific student that is inserted inside the database, then it will be like inserted not equal to -1. It means that the insertion in the database is successful. In that case, we are going to insert that student inside our remote database as well. That is a change inside our data model. And then similarly, we can have the insert enrollment, exactly the same. getting the cloud database instance, opening the collection for the enrollments, and then creating a document, providing the key value pairs, and adding those values in case of success, in case of the failure. And this is the change inside our data model. So you can see that again we are asking our remote DAO, enrollment DAO, not a remote, enrollment that access object, insert that enrollment. If it is successful, insert that enrollment inside our enrollment.set enrollment ID, enrolled ID. Remember that I am always giving this enrollment 000, and this particular insert method is automatically generating that particular specific what you can say that auto generate that particular specific enrollment ID and put it over there. But of course, in that particular specific enrollment object, that enrollment ID is 0. So if you don't change it, it will always go into that particular create a 0 ID, document with the name 0, and update those information over there, override the previous information. That we don't want. So we always, because that particular specific insert method has returned me the enrollment ID, so I am just setting that enrollment ID inside this enrollment object, and then I am inserting it into the remote database. So in this way we can change, add the information. Similarly, now we want to read the information out of it. Okay, so when we want to read, again the first step is same. I need to get the reference or the instance of that cloud database. So with cloud database, now what specific data we want to read? We want to read the enrollments. So I am opening that particular enrollment collection, and when I say .get, it will get all the documents in that collection. And what does it mean? That if I just go back into my, so what it will do here, my cursor is gone. So I say enrollments. So inside the enrollment, I have 5 different documents. So as soon as I say go into that enrollments collection and .get, it will get all those 5 documents out of it. Okay, and on complete listener, getting all those, of course it will go into the database, get all those things and return back. So it will come back into that particular, once that particular process reading operation is complete, it will come into that particular specific method. Okay, so once it is coming back here, so it has a, what you can say that a task, that is a query snapshot. Whatever the query that we have performed here in that collection, get all the documents, it will perform that query and return me back as a query snapshot. And then we can check task is successful. If the task is successful, then we are going to perform. If it is not successful, of course, then we can say that there is some error inside the reading process, and we try to find out that thing, what is that. But if it's successful, I'm saying list enrollments is equal to new array list. I'm just creating an list of enrollment, which is the empty one, and then for each document, query document snapshot, for each document inside our query snapshot, we say task.get result. So we are getting the result, it will return me a list of documents. So we are saying for each document in that list of documents, I am trying to get the enrollment, create a enrollment object and add that particular specific object inside the enrollment, and that enrollments list. So we are, first of all, the date part, that is a kind of a converted into a timestamp. So we are saying that from that document, get the timestamp, and we also need to provide the timestamp name, you know, key value pair. So key value, that's a key, the enrollment date, and then value is the actually timestamp. Get that one and then convert it into a date object and save it into a date. And then we can simply say that string object maps equal to doc.get data. So what it will do, it will try to get the map of all the data part, all the key value pairs, and put it into the map. Now I need to convert that map back into the enrollment object. When we are writing it, we have an enrollment object and we need to convert it into the map so that we can write it into the cloud database. And now when we are reading, it is a reverse process. We have a map, and then from that map key value pairs, we need to convert it into a enrollment object. So that is what we are doing here. So convert enrollment map, and then we, because the that date is something which is a separate one, so that's why I already converted into the date object and given it back. So it will return me enrollment object that I am adding in the list of enrollments. And then at the end, once that particular whole process is finished, I am saying that go into the data model that we have a reference of it and set enrollments. So what is the inside our data model, I have a few things, like we have update the enrollments. We can update enrollments. We have a list of enrollments. I add that particular specific method. I also that particular specific method inside my enrollment DAO. Set enrollment remote DB list. So whatever that list of enrollment is coming up, it is going to update those inside my remote inside my room database or the SQLite database. And then at the end, I'm also getting a live list of the student enrollments data. That is exactly the same that we used in the previous lecture, but without any student ID. It means that it will give me back the enrollment data for all the students which has registered inside application. Okay, so that is part is done. This is also done. So now if we talk about the view model, this is our view model in which we have all the methods which we are trying to get the information from our data models, and that is done. So main activity, and then we can say that how we can use the view model. So we open that, create a view model of variable, initialize that particular specific variable, and later on we can, using that particular specific view model, we can get the live list of information. And once we have the live list of information, we can always observe that one, provide the owner of that particular who is the observer of that particular live list. So we say this owner of that observer, and then now say now new observer, and then in that particular, whenever there is a change happened inside our live list, we are updating the data inside the adapter. In this way we can see, I mean, this is our view holder class, this is our view adapter class. That's exactly, you know, what does that mean. And then eventually it will show me the list of all the students, what you can say, that all students enrollments. So that is the end of our lecture today, and thank you very much. Bye.